Ladies and gentlemen, part 3 of the Fight for Fate match. Ted, Jake, Irvin, and George. Josh Andrusick and Alan McAfee have already qualified for the final round. Now we have part 3 to see who faces Dave Shem for the VWA World Championship at Wilderness War 2. We have seen some great action here thus far. Some rivalries here in this match. George and Irvin have some beef. We know that for sure. You know the rules. Over the top rope for an elimination. Last man standing advances to round 2. Instantly, Jake and Irvin gonna go after George together. And now Jake and Ted, they got some beef. Very first match of the inaugural VWA World Championship tournament, Ted eliminated Jake. Look at George. George instantly knocking these strikes. You gotta be kidding me. There's, oh my gosh, less than a minute. George Thornberry has eliminated Irvin Beavers. The rivalry has come full circle less than a minute into this first match. Into the first part of the match, Irvin Beavers has been eliminated by George Thornberry. We're already down to 3, Ted, Jake, and George. Wow, that's huge. Ted's gonna throw Jake. And now George has Ted. Lifting him up. Big shin breaker there. Ted kicks George off. This is big stuff. Ted now gets behind George. Lifts him up. Nice falling backdrop. I cannot believe Irvin Beavers was eliminated so quickly. But George Thornberry, I said it right in the very beginning, he's got beef with Irvin. And I guess it finally came out. Jake dropping George, Ted following up with a knee strike. You know, it's strikes. The striking game is what comes into play here. It's not about the grapples. The grapples can weaken you up, but at the end of the day in these kinds of matches, it's the striking maneuvers that come in handy. Ted puts Jake into the corner, clotheslines George. Now you want to talk about a very quick, fluid, agile striker. Look no further than Jake Andrusick. George wrestles his way behind Jake. Big shin breaker. George following it up with a nice running knee there. Ted now has George. Beautiful reverse DDT from Ted Michaelick. He's got George again. Irish whip reversed by George. George puts Ted down. Look at George locking in a beautifully executed sleeper hold there. Don't forget about Irvin lurking in the background. Ted with an Irish whip to George and to Jake. Oh my God! Ted turns Jake inside out. Back and forth. Look at Ted taking it from both sides from George and Jake. Ted's slow to get to his feet. George counters. Drop kick to the knee of Jake Andrusick. And now they've got Jake double suplex connecting. Look at George tying Jake up. Knees right to the gut. Knocking the wind out of Jake. And now George follows it up with a nice palm strike. Oh, Jake with a kick to the back of the head of George Thornberry. Irish whip reversed. George very wisely used the ropes to break momentum. Rolls Jake up to try and slow down. Ted now has George. Irish whip reversed by George. Jake catches George. Goes beautiful Hurricane Rana. Ted with a strike. Jake Irish whips Ted. Ted counters. Wow! Big over-the-shoulder takedown from Ted to Jake. George. Wow, look at the chain wrestling ability of George Thornberry as he rolls him up and locks in that patented ankle lock. George is such a fluid and technical wrestler, but he falls victim to a double pile driver from Ted and Jake. And now Ted locks in that side leg lock. And Jake is just letting the damage get done. Ted is absolutely feeling it here. George coming after Jake. Big strikes Right to the face. Look at this. Rapid fire strikes to Jake. Jake definitely's got the wind knocked out of him. And now they've got Jake. Double pile driver connecting. Ted's there. Lifts him up. Going up high. Look at Ted. Great flying body press from Ted Michaelic. Oh, but George drop kicking the back of the leg. Jake, look, they're going after Ted. It looked like they were trying to hit him with rapid fire strikes to go for the elimination. And now George and Jake both going after Ted. Oh man, the uppercut and the drop kick to the knee. George and Jake showing some damage. And again, this is for the most part, this has been a three-way match. Whoa, you gotta be kidding, George! George landed the running high knee, and Jake Andrusik is eliminated. And we're down to 2, and George all fired up. The running high knee, the whitewash from George, eliminates Jake Andrusik. And now it's just George and Ted. And George has him. And there's another whitewash to Ted. Ted takes the whitewash. George has got him. Look at the German suplex. George going up to the top rope. What are we going to see? Oh, the coup de grace. The coup de grace double stomp. And a right hand to take Ted down. Ted is dazed. But remember, it's all about getting thrown over the top rope. George utilizing a leg sweep takedown. Ted, he had George against the ropes. He's got George on the apron. You gotta be kidding me. The right hand. The right hand. Ted Michaelic eliminates George Thornberry. Ted will advance. Rapid fire eliminations from George, but it wasn't enough. Ted will advance to round 2.